Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Tom Harkay. He is a tropical design expert, a tropical enthusiast, blogger, podcaster, and we learn from him about practical tips to help you create an authentic, affordable tropical retreat, no matter your space or budget. Learn about lasting relaxation, beauty, and island-inspired joy into your daily life. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Thank you very much, AJ. Really, thank you so much for having me. This is exciting.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show, Tom. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll learn from you about how one can create a budget-friendly tropical retreat at home. We'll talk about this. But before that, Tom, let's talk a bit about your journey, your background, your story, so that audience knows who they are listening to.
Okay. Well, there's a lot to it, so I will try to be brief, but I am originally from San Diego, California, and I'm first generation American. My father was Hungarian, my mother was French Canadian, so there was a lot of international influence in my family. And I had the ability to live in a few different places throughout my life. You know, life kind of brings you in some different directions, someplace unexpectedly. So I've lived in Europe for 4 years, and now I'm currently based in Houston, Texas. I've been married for 30 years here and have raised 3 boys. They're all in their 20s now. So I've worked in some different industries, the mortgage industry, oil and gas, and along the way, I just have to say that there's always been this underlying love, this underlying drive for entrepreneurship. I wanted to own my own thing one day. And as I got older, I simply just got tired of working for other people. Their vision was different. Their expectations were different. And so when my wife and I went to Fiji for the first time in 2017, when we were flying back to Houston, I was determined to not have this be something that you just check off on a bucket list. Because there's too many people, at least here in the US, they take one trip to someplace amazing like Fiji or maybe to India or just someplace far, and they never do it again. They don't do anything with it. They go back to their daily grind. And as you get older, time just goes by faster. So to keep a very long story short, that's where I thought, I've always loved the idea of import and export. So we thought we would import from Fiji, from the South Pacific, maybe some artwork. There's a lot of beautiful handcrafted things in the South Pacific made from wood and hand-blown glass. And the dream at that point was to go wholesale. We would supply other little stores and boutiques with these things. And we got all set up, and then COVID hit. And so everything came to a stop. And then after that, things just kind of changed. Shipping costs have never really come down. The cost to import into the US is very expensive still. So we thought, well, we'll import smaller amounts and go retail. And then I thought, what else can I do? So I started a blog. And along the way, I thought, I'm just going to keep pivoting until I find the right match. And in between, I went back to work. I've worked for Shell, I've worked for ExxonMobil, I've worked for Chevron, and, you know, to take care of the household. But along the way, I never gave up on that little dream. Sometimes it got parked for a few years, but then we bring it out. And then last July is when I said enough. I left Chevron. I relaunched the business. I hired a web guy to help me redesign everything. He's the one who talked me into starting a podcast, which I never thought I would do. And then through the podcast atmosphere there, that's where they said, you really need to start a YouTube channel. And I thought, who is going to want to see this on YouTube? And what am I going to do? So I started a YouTube channel at the beginning of May. And now we've got an online guide, a huge program I'm putting together for interior design, tropically geared. So that hopefully just explains very quickly my little journey to where I am now about entrepreneurship, refusing to give up, and about sharing how you can take these international experiences in the tropical realm and use them to continue that experience at home until you get to go on your next trip. So hopefully that answers your question, AJ, but I could keep you on the show here for like an hour or more telling you about things.
Absolutely, Tom. So what is it when you say that, you can create that whole atmosphere, that retreat sort of atmosphere at home? What does it exactly mean? People The whole people will think, okay, we will create something like that at home. Is
Yeah.
that the same thing? We are on the same page on this?
Well, I think people do. I mean, people like different designs, whatever it is. I mean, everybody's home is decorated in something, in some kind of style. If you look at all of the different ways to design, there's going to be something that appeals to you the most. What kind of struck me about the tropical aspect of this is that people love to go on tropical vacations, and this is a global thing. People are always going to these amazing places close to home for you over there, the Maldives. You know, people are going to the Seychelles and Mauritius and places like this. But if you ask them, what is it you really love about the tropics? A lot of people can't tell you. They can't really pinpoint and identify, oh, I love the beach, or I love the resorts, or I love to go deep sea fishing, or whatever. And then most of those people, when the vacation concludes, they don't want to leave. So I thought that's just sad. There's aspects of this that you can bring back home. And here in the US, when a lot of people try to decorate tropically, and I've seen a lot of examples of this, it's just kind of a generic, very mix of things. You can kind of pull some colors together and pull some different decor concepts and ideas, and people think of tiki huts and things like that, and you just end up with this mismatched kind of touristy blend that doesn't resemble at all the expensive vacation you just took. And I use Fiji as a comparison because that was my starting point for me. My wife and I were very fortunate to stay at a very nice private island resort, and that was my inspiration. So I was determined to just teach people how you can do that. If you do travel, pay attention. What is it that you see? What is it you're hearing? What are you even smelling? Identify those unique things which are really standing out to you. Look in your hotel lobby, in your hotel room, when you're out by the pool, any activities you're doing. Look at the colors. Just look at everything. I'm actually designing a checklist that people can take with them when they travel to collect inspiration, because a lot of what you see and hear, that can be brought back home in very inexpensive ways if you just understand color palettes. You understand tropical plants, whether they're fake ones or they're real ones. If you understand decor, factory produced generic things versus handcrafted things by local artisans. I think when you travel, and I haven't been to India, but I would assume this is the case in the nicer resorts that you have there. A lot of the artwork and things that you're going to see are made by local artists. It's really showcasing the culture of that part of India. In Fiji, it was the same thing. It's showcasing the local things, and people don't pay attention to that. I was taking pictures of everything. I even found out in some hotels the artwork is for sale, and it's not expensive. So, by bringing these pieces back or finding connections to where you can get it, and these are things that I provide on my website, ceruleanbay.com, you can start to collect things to create a very budget-friendly tropical escape at home. And then I figured, some people are very good with a design eye. Some people, artistry kind of comes naturally to them when it comes to matching colors, size and scales of things in a room. When you get into the interior design aspects, you don't have to hire an expensive interior designer if you know the basics about how to transform an existing space. That's not to say you don't ever need an interior designer, because when you start to get into things like removing walls or making real structural changes, that's when I would bring in the professionals. And then they're going to be connected with good contractors who know how to do that. But if you're not going to be making huge changes like that, and it's just creating a space where at the end of a very busy day, you can go away and have a peaceful place in your home, whether it's an apartment, it's a big, huge home, it doesn't matter, that you call your own. And it's got the visual, the auditory, just all of the sensory aspects, as much to the extent that it's possible, in there where you can just mentally escape just for a bit, meditate on things, relax. It is possible, and it doesn't have to cost a lot of money.
Absolutely, Tom. So how does one get started? Means everyone has this, will like this idea, and they want to start. They may have say a lot of people, for example, have an apartment, and it has limited space.
Yeah.
How do you create? Do you make the whole apartment the same way, or you create one corner? What would you like to tell them? How do they get started with this?
Well, I think it depends. Obviously, it depends on what you have to work with. So, the layout of your apartment. And then I would say the second most important thing is your family life. Do you live alone? Are there family members there? Do you have small children? Do you have pets? All of those things are going to influence how much space you have available and who's using your space. And then this is something that I am putting together in our tropical home transformation guide. There's an assessment in there which will walk you through all these questions. It's very, very in depth to get people to think, what is it you really want? For some people, it might just be a corner in a bedroom. For some people, they want the whole bedroom. Maybe some people want to do their whole apartment. And then, it kind of can grow from there, because if it's not just you and maybe you've got a significant other or family members who all enjoy it, what about entertaining? Now maybe you want to have family and friends over. Well, if you're going to do that, make it as authentic as possible. This is where you can learn about different tropical dishes from different countries, how to make a tropical drink. There's the cocktails and the mocktails for the people who don't drink alcohol. You're getting into that whole lifestyle aspect of it now. But to start, you just want to focus on what is it you need for you, where, and then it can grow from there if necessary, but enough to just bring you to a quiet place at the end of a day or whenever you feel you just need to de-stress. It can be a simple chair in a corner that's done with a few tropical plants. Maybe you've got some Bluetooth going with some tropical sounds, maybe some authentic music. Some people love aromatherapy. This is where you can bring in a diffuser that's got just a nice, lovely tropical smell to it. Yeah, it depends. And I have all of this spelled out in the guide where we're actually releasing on July 1st, this home transformation guide where it's got everything to walk people from start to finish, projects no matter how big or how small, to just focus and then grow from there in a very kind of step-by-step fashion, so that when you do it, you're doing it right the first time. You're not having to go back and redo, correct expensive mistakes and things like that. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question, but start by focusing what would be enough for you right now, and then start to get ideas and inspiration about how to grow it, how to build it.
Right. Normally, when people talk of tropical, then what about the water bodies? How do you keep it, or you do not even try it because it's an apartment?
No, it works very well in apartment spaces, and especially for those who are fortunate enough to have a balcony too. People think, well, how much can you do on an apartment balcony? Here in the US, you can do things here depending on what you're allowed to do permission-wise from the building itself. But even though they're small spaces, there's ways to create privacy, even if it's just with a comfortable chair out there. So if you do have a balcony, there's lots of great things that you can do for those spaces. But inside, we walk through about how to set a budget, how to determine, whether you should be out buying new things. But I always encourage people to save money. Look at what you already have. You might have some already existing pieces that are really, really nice. And what happens is a lot of people don't realize what they have in their home because they see it all the time, which means you end up not noticing it anymore. You're so used to it being there. But if you completely empty a corner or completely empty a room and then put your favorite piece back in there, and then maybe that favorite piece of artwork, and then maybe that tabletop decor, and if you've used up everything already, and then budget-wise, you can go and source some new things, that's great. But I find people can be very surprised about what they already own that will work. And then if you do want to buy new, there's ways to do that too, to save money. And we go into that in our program as well. Not everything has to be brand new. There are some pre-owned things out there which are very, very nice that you can just find for a bargain. Here in the US, it's very prevalent here. So yeah, lots of ideas about that too.
Absolutely. In terms of mistakes, a lot of people try to do it, and maybe they did not hear you. You have different ideas, but the mistakes, it keeps on getting repeated. They keep on getting repeated. What are some of the things, you would want to tell in terms of the do's and don'ts in case, anybody will be listening to this?
Well, I think it's just taking a little bit of time before. Never rush. Don't rush into anything. especially no matter how easy it seems. If you've painted a lot of interiors and you're very familiar with paint and how it works and all of this, and you know how to use all the painting tools. I'll just use that as an example. You still need to stop, because where a lot of people fall down is when it comes to color itself. And color can be very, very tricky to work with, because depending on the amount of natural light that you have, this will greatly affect what a color looks like. And then as the sun moves throughout the day, the color in your home is going to change. And what I always strongly discourage people from doing is, if you go to the store, a home improvement store, and they've got all the millions of paint chips there and the colors, you have to realize that those colors are going to look entirely different when you get them home, because look at the lighting in the store. Nobody has lighting like that at home, those big, huge warehouse lights and things like this. So to stop mistakes in painting, a quick tip for all of your listeners is, when you're looking at a paint chip and there's 5 or 6 shades, a color spectrum is what it's called. And from light to dark, you have all of the different shades in that spectrum, and you find one, go 1 shade lighter. People are thinking, oh, but that's too light, that's not going to work. Go 1 shade lighter. Trust me, it's going to work, because paint paint colors, when they dry, they get darker. They actually do darken. And then in your home, they're going to look darker anyway, just because of the lighting. So in painting, I would do that. So to avoid mistakes there, just another quick example is, when it comes to furnishings, understanding size and scale. This is another area that trips people up. You go to the store and you find awesome sofas and coffee tables and recliners, and oh, they're just wonderful and they look wonderful. And then you get it home and it's giant. It's like, oh my God, that's the only thing that'll fit in the room. You have to measure your space at home. And we have a whole measuring guide that walks people through how to professionally measure everything, again, so you don't have to pay somebody. And then just understanding that the space that you have, take that space to the store in the form of measurements, measure your piece. If it matches up, you're going to be fine. If it exceeds it by anything, don't buy it, because it's going to be too big, because that's expensive. When you have to start returning furniture, here a lot of people charge you a restocking fee, and it's just a pain, and mentally. I will also put this out for all of your listeners. If you're going to do any room in your house in any style, it's never going to be problem-free. There's always going to be an element of stress and frustration to it, even if you hire professionals. So just let me put that out there for everybody. It's not necessarily a walk in the park, but it can be a lot of fun. It's exciting when you're creating something that you are doing on your own. You are sourcing everything, and at the end of the day, you have a completed result that's all yours. But yeah, there's ways to avoid the expensive mistakes. You just be patient, don't rush.
Absolutely. And in terms of budget, means some people will say, I have a limited budget, but some people will have enough money, but they cannot just go and spend enough money or lots of money on that. There has to be a limit on it. How do you decide what is the right kind of budget, especially when you have that kind of money?
Well, this is where you have to factor in the whole big picture. You have to step back and you have to prioritize, what are your expenses? And only you are going to know that when it comes to the mortgage for your house or the rent for your apartment. And then what are your daily expenses? You might think you have money to afford that big, beautiful, brand new sofa and that coffee table, but maybe it is out of budget. What I suggest people do is, if you really have determined that you need to buy brand new, go to the most expensive stores where you live, even though you can't afford to shop there, and get your inspiration. That's where you're going to find the best quality of construction, maybe local artists who produce very beautiful work that literally is too expensive for you, but that's where you get your inspiration. Then look for the stores where you can afford to shop and use that information you just collected to find the next best thing. Then when you do find the next best thing, it's not going to be identical, it won't be exact, but you're going to find something that looks very similar in terms of color and style and scale. Look for sales, look for promotions, look online and see if you can find that particular piece now, maybe at a discount somewhere, or, and if then you've fallen into your budget range, you're good. If you need to carry things a step further, this is where, at least here in the US, Pre-owned is huge. And we have a whole blog post about this, which explains the difference between thrift stores, consignment shops, and estate sales. Three very different ways of buying pre-owned things, but three very good ways. I didn't know about any of these until my wife started dragging me around to look. You can find things that are brand new that are being sold for just dollars, for almost nothing if you take the time to go and look. So to be budget conscious, again, it takes patience. It takes time to go and look and search for these things, but you can find beautiful pieces for a fraction of the cost if you just take the time to look. So never overspend. When I say it comes to interior design, your family comes first, you comes first, your health comes first, any medical needs in the family, things that your children need. Obviously, that's priority. And then, when all of the essentials, the most important things are taken care of, then you can focus on things like interior design, and you can still save a lot of money.
Absolutely, absolutely. Lots of good advice here.
Oh, thank you.
From you, Tom. And I'm sure a lot of people would want to understand more about all these things from you, about you, as well as how they can get the best from you, from what you are as a home design expert. What's the best way for them to connect with you, Tom?
Well, you can go to my website, ceruleanbay.com. And you can also, if you have any questions, send me an email. The email address I use is podcast@ceruleanbay.com. And I will be putting out information on our website about the there's the tropical self-discovery assessment, which we are putting out there, and it's available for a small charge. But it gets you to confirm whether or not this is really for you. Do you really love the tropics as much as you think you do? If so, why? We walk you through all of the steps so that you can use your assessment results then to move into the home transformation guide, where that teaches you everything you need to know about tropical design, how to measure, color psychology, lighting, plants, furniture placement, everything is in there. But yes, check us out at ceruleanbay.com. Send me an email at podcast@ceruleanbay.com, and I would love to connect with you.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed.
Oh, AJ, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure.